how we do this, how we live this out, absolutely matters. This is not the first time a bunch of Christian people got together and decided they wanted to do something positive. Okay? It's never our intentions, because our hearts for the most part have been changed and we want to see things. It's just that we oftentimes do things poorly and incompletely. So, a year-ish ago, I don't really do timelines, a number of us went to these missional community conferences and started talking about what does it look like to be people who are organized around the things that we already care about. How do I live out of the things I already care about? Public education, caring for the homeless. How do I do this consistently? I don't know how to practice this in my life. Been there? All been there. And so instead of giving us these principles, like here are your order of things that you do now for the rest of your life, we were given this very simple and very powerful set of questions, and it's 3 questions. And they point to these 3 aspects of justice: the relational, the communal, and the regenerative aspect of justice. And it's around these 3 questions that we will arrange ourselves, and I'm just saying it as like an actual going to happen kind of a thing, that we will arrange ourselves as a missional community. The first question is this: to whom are you called? Not to what. The question is not to what are you called. Because if you are moved by an idea, you will only be moved by an idea for a certain amount of time. And this is not because you're a heartless person. It's because ideas can move us for a time, but then you run out of care. If you're called, and that's the other aspect, is call. If you're called, and the sustainability of your call is predicated on your ability to stay compassionate, you're screwed. Because you're not going to stay compassionate. You're not going to continue to care. You don't have truth, yes? Like, as much as you can talk to folks who work for IJM and have been working for IJM for 15 years, they tell you there are days that it's not a matter of I care about this. It's a matter of I've chosen to do this because I've been called. And I was called to these people. And here's the other end of it. We're not called, if we are called, to work on homelessness. We're called to care for homeless people. We're not called to deal with trafficking. We are called to rescue, care for, minister to, give jobs to, pray for trafficked people. It's always, always, always about people. Second question is similar. Who will you go with? And I love this because this is and what ends up happening, and it does to me, and I love this, is so we receive this kind of sense of call. I'm supposed to do something. And it's an area of justice, and we freak out. Because like, oh crap, now I have to call the UN and Bono. And like, Bono is so incredibly hard to get a hold of. Like, and you can't do anything without Bono. Of course you gotta call Bono. It's justice. That's what he does, right? I'm gonna guarantee you this. I don't do a lot of guarantees because well, for a lot of reasons. I will guarantee you this. If God is calling you to something in your life, He has provided people in your proximity that He has called you with. Guaranteed. You will either go with people because they're following you, or there's someone else who's already been called and you will follow them. Either one. It's never about, I had a conversation with my friend Amy today on the phone about this, about like we have kind of the sense of like, we've got to do a thing, and we get like, I've got this drive and I've got to do a thing, and we said, you know what, I bet there are people like already in your life who care about the same thing you care about. It's more about putting those people in a room and saying, okay, how are we going to do this thing together? This is part of why this night was organized the way it was. And you don't necessarily know this, because I'm sneaky. I am very sneaky, and you'll find that as time goes along. We didn't do this big Facebook thing and say, hey, if you guys want to come talk about trafficking, show up. What we did is we emailed like a few strategic people in a few of our communities. The names, phone numbers, and emails that I got from those pastors, and said, I want you to invite your people. And then you followed those people to this place. Come back to that. And the last one is the regenerative question. And it's only after, really, we have asked these first 2 questions and come up with some answers that we can really begin to actually ask this question. What does the kingdom look like in this place? And the kingdom is always a matter of regeneration. Kingdom is never a matter of like it's fixed now. It's a matter of how does this multiply itself out over the course of time. As the years go on, we'll flush out this third question because it's a little bit more complex and it's a little bit more nebulous. Partially because we're not there yet. And so, as I transition now, I'm going to introduce you to some people who live this way and are beginning really to live out of this sense of to whom are you called and who will you go with. I want to frame it with this. As we begin to understand justice, and we begin to understand who we are, whatever hope we have to become and remain an effective missional community lies in this. People follow people to serve other people. People follow people to serve other people. And to qualify this, we are moved by ideas, but only for a time. If you are called, and you may not be. This may not be your thing, and guess what? That's totally fine. But if you are called to care for trafficked people, it's because you're called to care for trafficked people. If you watched a movie and you were stirred, that is fantastic, and I love that. But what will keep you here 20 years from now is because you've brought some people with you, and because you were following people on the way. You talk to folks. This is one of the reasons I love addiction culture. You start talking to folks in addiction culture. Well, you know what keeps you sober? It's not the idea of being sober. The idea of being sober is a horrible idea if you're an addict. It's a terrible idea. Are you kidding me? Have you been sober? It's an awful thought. What keeps you sober is that you got a sponsor. What keeps you more sober is you start thinking about using again, and then you think about the people you are leading into sobriety. You think, there's no way I can do that because I'm leading people into this. It's either going to be about the people we're following and the people we're leading us, or it's not going to happen. Bottom line. Can I get an amen? We will no longer in this valley allow, and it's going to happen, for folks just to get fired up on ideas and start doing things. We're going to be a people who are following people and leading other people into the things that are on our hearts to care about, because that is who God has made us. Christ went to folks and he said, you follow me. And those people turned around to other folks and said, you follow me. And here we are 2,000 years later, because people follow people.